Hey guys, and welcome to Teal House Farm. I was just getting ready to do some inventory in my canning pantry here to figure out what I still want to can for winter, so I can be on an eye out for some good deals. And I realized it's been probably a couple years since we've done a canning pantry tour, and so I thought I'd just take you for a quick tour. I'll show you what sort of things we keep in our canning pantry. We are a family of 8, soon to be 9. I can a whole lot, and it's one big way that I keep our food budget really low. And some of the things we can, we've raised or grown ourselves. A lot of things we've canned are things I've just found at like discount grocery stores like a Save-A-Lot or an Aldi or even a farmer's market where they're selling things by the flat, and then I've canned and put them up because overall that'll save us lots of money through the year. So let's go ahead and take a peek, and maybe it'll give you some ideas for your pantry. As always, I'll talk a little bit about how I use these items, and if you're interested in specific recipes, we have a playlist that is all canning pantry cooking, and I'll link it below. We also have a playlist that is how to can the vast majority of these things, and I will link that as well. Sorry about this random cord. I store my dehydrators up there, and one of the electric cords is popping out. So, okay, let's go see what we have. Okay, up at the very top we have some pork bone broth, and pork bone broth is something that you don't really see on the grocery store shelves here in America. It's much more common in other cultures, but it is a great way to use every single piece of food when you are making some sort of pork roast or pork cut. Save the bones and make some bone broth with them, and then I use that broth, anything really that I would use like a beef broth for, especially making gravy. It makes some really good like mushroom gravy. Okay, that is a bacon and jalapeno chili, which is really good. And this is a 4 or 5 bean and vegetable soup. So with winter coming up, I really can a lot of soups. We eat a lot of soups for lunch in winter, and it's great not to have to make them from scratch every single day. Lots of ham and beans. And I always can it in both quarts and then pints. So when Sam is going to work, he can grab a pint of ham and beans off the shelf and take it to work with him and just heat it up in the microwave because it's a glass jar, and then the larger jars when we're using them for a family meal. I am definitely going to need to can more potatoes. I only have 2 jars left. I usually have 20 jars in the pantry, but in fall it's a great time to be buying potatoes in bulk. They're very cheap, and so we're going to be putting up a lot of potatoes. I use canned potatoes for making fried potatoes, mashed potatoes, adding them to stews, making like potato pancakes. So they're pretty versatile, and it saves me from having to peel potatoes every time I want something with a potato in it. Have a whole bunch of beef stew, same theory as the ham and beans, smaller jars for taking to lunch and things like that, and bigger jars when I heat it up. And you'll notice this one had a lot of siphoning. And what happens if you have at least half the liquid left, it's still safe to eat and keep in your pantry if the seal is good, but you want to put it up front so you'll use it first. So that's why this guy's here. He siphoned quite a bit, so this one will be used up first. I just recently canned these. I have some dry packed sausage, which I like to use for like sausage gravy. I also add them to egg casseroles. Sometimes soup if I want like an Italian wedding type soup with sausage in it. So I definitely need to can more sausage as well. I also can sausage in actual patties shapes, which I'll pop open and just warm up for breakfast, but I'm pretty sure I'm totally out of those. So definitely need to can some sausage. I have some canned pears left. I can them with the skin on because it doesn't bother me at all to have the skin on them, and I basically only use these for making desserts like cobblers and things like that. I have some green tomatoes. I use those for making fried green tomatoes, slice them like that. And this is green tomato salsa verde, which I use on Mexican dishes. I have really good enchilada soup that I use this in. And so every year when gardening season is over, I will can up the leftover green tomatoes and then use them through the winter and the spring like that. I have just a couple jars of cranberry sauce left from last year. Those will be used up soon. I love making homemade cranberry sauce with store-bought cranberries. They're really cheap around Thanksgiving, so I'll make a huge batch and I will just can them. Sam loves homemade cranberry sauce where it's still nice and chunky, and so anytime I cook chicken or pork, a lot of times we'll put cranberry sauce on top. And then coming to the end, we have a lonely jar of applesauce. With fall coming, it'll be time to make more applesauce, so that'll be great. We're down to 1 jar, so it lasted me pretty good this last year. And then 1 lonely jar of salsa, again with fall coming to the end. or with fall coming to us and the garden getting ready to finish up for the year, we're about to pick a whole bunch of tomatoes. It'll be a great time to make some more salsa. Okay, next shelf. This is canned goat meat, which I like the goat meat canned. It really helps with the texture. I canned some of it plain like this in broth, and I canned some of it like this with a barbecue seasoning on it. It's good both ways. There's some barbecue pork in the back too, which is in the same barbecue sauce as the goat, and I do have a recipe for this. The barbecue pork, I love making in a humongous batch, and then we can just open it up, warm it up, and put it on sandwiches or eat it as a whole dinner, which is great. I do can ham, which I'll use for omelets and for casseroles. I have a crock pot cheesy potato meal that I really like in the winter. It really fills bellies for not too expensive, and I'll use the canned ham for that as well. Sometimes we even fry it up with a little brown sugar, like a breakfast ham. That works pretty good. There's some little lonely sausage back there too. This is one of my favorite winter meals. This is called hamburger stew. It's a tomato-based stew. Sometimes we'll just pop it open and warm it up and eat it just like that. It's got hamburger and vegetables in it. Sometimes I will pop it open, add a whole bunch of noodles to it to soak up the liquid, and then it's a goulash. So I have lots of quarts of that because that's one of our favorites. This is just chicken noodle soup, which is great in the winter. There are no noodles. I don't can noodles. Some people do. I don't feel like it's safe. That's up to you. I add noodles when I warm up. So if that's the chicken and the vegetable part, pop it open, heat it up to a boil with some egg noodles real fast. Makes a real quick lunch. This is turkey pot pie filling. So I'll drain that, dump that inside a pie crust and put a cover on it, and it'll make a real fast turkey pot pie. For the liquid filling, I'll reserve just a little bit of the liquid, add a little bit of like cornstarch, salt and pepper, maybe some thyme and rosemary, and that'll make the gooey part of the pie. Or you can drain it all the way and just dump in some cream of chicken soup. That works as well too. Have a little bit of canned hamburger for things like sloppy joes or for tacos. I also sometimes use it to make like poor man stew, so it's like beef stew but with hamburger. Got a few jars of diced and sliced apples, which I'll use these for making fried apples or for pies and cobblers. A lot of chicken broth, and we go through this so fast, especially in the winter because we eat a lot of soup in the winter. So that looks like a lot, but I'm sure in November I'll be making another 40 quarts to put on the shelf. Canned zucchini. We use this for a lot of different things. I have a zucchini casserole I really like. I add it to a lot of soups and stews. I hide it in my sauces. So zucchini is something that grows like crazy, so I can a lot of it so we can enjoy it all year round. I have a few small little chicken broths here, and there's some apple syrup for pancakes. We make from apple cores and peels and add cinnamon, and then we put it on our waffles and our pancakes. So it's a way to make sure you don't waste anything while you're making your apple slices and your apple sauce. We use the discarded leftovers to make apple syrup. Almost to the bottom here, we've got some more chicken and vegetable type soups, a little more beef stew hidden in the corner, more syrup. This is canned pumpkin, which we'll start using a lot in the fall when you're feeling like pumpkin-y things, pumpkin breads, pumpkin pies. I have a pear and pumpkin casserole. That's really, or not casserole, pear and pumpkin cobbler. That's really good, and so we'll be eating a lot of that kind of stuff. Pumpkin soup is always really good for lunch too in the fall. Let's see. This is a little bit more hamburger stew that wouldn't fit in the other spot, and some more chicken soup. At the bottom we have vegetable broth, some canned chicken and canned fishes that are bought at the store. You can home can those. I find that it's typically not cost effective to home can those things. It's more cost effective to buy them canned at the store. So I have a lot of different types of mixed peppers. I have mixes that are hot peppers. I have mixes that are hot and sweet peppers. I have mixes that are just sweet peppers, but these are all diced peppers to use for casseroles, Mexican dishes, soups and stews, stir fries, egg omelets, anything like that you could use peppers for. technically not, here, I'll fix that. You're technically not supposed to stack them on top of each other unless you have a cardboard piece in between. So I was breaking the rules a little there. We fixed it. Okay, and then we have a whole bunch of diced button mushrooms, which, same things. Casseroles, egg dishes, soup, stews, Mexican dishes. I love having little cans of mushrooms on hand because I really like mushrooms. Got lots of home canned chili beans. We're ready for chili this winter. It's one of Sam's favorite lunches, so we can our own chili beans at home from dry beans. It costs me something like 20 cents a jar. We're buying a jar of chili beans at the store is $1.20. More peppers, and behind all those peppers we have more chili beans. We have some canned sweet potatoes, which I'll use to make mashed sweet potatoes a lot. Kids really only eat sweet potatoes if they're mashed, so that's typically how we eat those. I have home canned Great Northern beans, which I, again, find much cheaper to can them at home than to buy cans of canned beans. This is pickled onions for sandwiches, which this is really good. I almost like those better than pickles. We have watermelon rind relish, also for sandwiches, which tastes just like a pickle relish, except I made it with a watermelon rind. Very sweet. Really like that on sandwiches and hamburgers. Lots of canned spinach. And then we have some homemade barbecue sauce. This one is a really hot barbecue sauce. It's really good, though. Just used this last night to make a slow-cooked beef roast. It was so good. And then we have some home canned black beans. Same thing again. I use dry beans. I can them so that they're ready to go, but it's so much cheaper than buying cans of beans at the store. Again, 15 to 20 cents a pint versus over $1 for a pint at the store. Got a few more of those onions. I have lots of rice mixes that I keep on hand. I put these in the Instapot, and it goes from this to a nice flavored rice in like 17 minutes, I think is what the Instapot takes. Smaller jars of soup. That's chicken soup. These are home canned baked beans. These are really good. I'll make sure that recipe is linked below. They're nice and sweet, how I like my baked beans. Pickled beets. I'm the only one who likes pickled beets, so those are for me. I just like to eat them right out of the jar. I have some more goat meat that wouldn't fit with the other goat meat. People ask, what does goat meat taste like? Here's some more too. It's kind of like a beef. It's kind of like a red meat. Same texture as beef, I feel like. It definitely has just a slight, maybe gamey, or sometimes people call it goaty flavor, but I don't find it overwhelming. I do find that the texture when I cook it, just like fresh, is not my favorite. I feel like it's a little bit stringy, but when I pressure can it, it just like falls apart, it's so good. So I prefer to pressure can the goats we raise and most of the cuts, or to eat it ground. I feel like that's the best quality texture. More canned sweet potatoes, more beef stew, more little jars of hamburger stew, and that about does it. That's everything. So one of the questions I get is, I really like to can, but I don't know where to store. So we have this used to be a stairwell to the basement, which is no longer a stairwell to the basement. And that's where we store all of our food. It's one of the only closets in the house. I choose to store food rather than things, so I don't keep decor items, no Christmas decorations or Halloween decorations. Everybody's got like one coat, and I have coats that hang up by the door on the other side of this camera, because I want to use my storage space for food, because I feel like food is what is most important for my family. But if you really don't have any space to put anything, some clever solutions I've seen is like people will store under their master bed on like cookie sheets or cooking sheets, whatever you call them, and then they can just slide it under and slide it back when they want to get something out, because that's a space that you're probably not utilizing in your house. So under the bed is a great solution. There's no rule that says your food has to be stored in the kitchen too. There's no reason you can't use a hallway closet, or if you have bedroom closets, to store some food as well. We do not have a basement that's good for food storage, so it's all got to be stored up here. I know a lot of people have those nice utility shelves like in a basement so that their pantry doesn't become a hot cluttered mess like this, but we don't have that as an option, so kind of do the best we can with the space we have. I hope that gives you some ideas of things you might want to add to your pantry. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.